Welcome, 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 everyone in Spurs fandom. I am Jack Coyle, your host. I'm coming to you from North Carolina in the United States of America. And I've got a great panel with a special guest to talk about all the exciting transfer news going on that we've seen this week. And I hope everyone's doing well. I hope the panel's feeling a lot better than I am because I have to admit, I feel like I'm in an episode of Black Mirror where Spurs operate like a big club with ambition, beating clubs like Bayern and Manchester United to signatures of players, and I'm really feeling a little disconcerted. So I'm hoping the rest of the panel can make me feel a little bit more comfortable about this stuff. And I'll welcome our first guest, Ash Maddock from Southview Coys. How are you doing tonight?
I'm the same, bro. I'm having to pinch myself to think, is this real? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like, but yeah, I'm happy to be here, guys. I'm gonna be the Mac to you guys, cheese. And I'm ready to talk about the transfers and what a great day it's been. What a strange day it's been as well. So yeah, let's get it.
And HG, how about yourself? How are you feeling over there in Austria?
Yeah, I think I'm the same as everyone. I was kind of floating around this morning, like hoping that one of the kids that I teach was going to ask me about Werner and what I thought, and one of them did. I have in like the Rapid Vienna under 14 whatever team, but he asked me about it. But yeah, it's just like it's like the one thing I care about, and when he gives a crap, but I care. So it's been a good day.
Oh, that's great. And long time coming. Our great friend Gibbo is back with us. How you feeling tonight?
Yep, not been on for a while, mate. Glad to be back. I said to you earlier, long time no see. Same with HG. First time on with Ashmatic. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that he would go to Bayern so I could see everybody shit their pants on Twitter in our group. I sometimes find that funnier than actually getting the player through the door. But no, really glad. Two early signings, like you said. It's a little bit strange, but looking forward to talking about two players. One player I have no idea about, mate. So let's get into it.
All right, well, let's get into it. Obviously, I happen, since I'm 5 hours behind, or 6 hours in the case of HG, I woke up and the news is already broken by the time I turned on my phone. But it was great news all over the place, and I think a whole lot of people were who were complaining that they figured Bayern would beat us to the signature. We're having to back up and say good job to the club, I guess. So here's the news that we woke up to. Ash, have you had a chance to really dig into this player? I think most people were fairly unfamiliar with him. He was linked with us last summer, I think. But have you had any chance to really kind of tear into this guy and see what he's all about?
Yeah, I did a bit of research on him, and as far as I know, he is a big specimen of a man. He's like 6'3". He's like an athlete. I think his parents were athletes as well, so they just bred a superhuman, super athlete. And yeah, basically his attributes is that he's super physical, similar to Romero, front-footed. But the disciplinary record, more importantly, is less so. So he hasn't got as many yellow cards or red cards as Romero. So that's good news. In terms of being on the ball as well, I think Paratici actually looked at him when he was at Romania and scouted him for Juventus as a right back. They needed a player that can play, a defender that can play out from the back. And so they brought him in and they sent him straight on to loan to Sampdoria. He came back from Sampdoria, so he played under a different system, went back to Juventus, and then they loaned him out again. So he had a few stints on loan, and then he went on to Genoa in Division B, Serie B, sorry. And then he got promoted with them into Serie A. And ever since then, he's been there. And he's only been there for 6 months, I believe, at Genoa. But he's done so well that loads of clubs were looking at him. It wasn't just us. It was Newcastle, I believe. I'm not sure if Manchester United were looking at him, but a few Premiership clubs were looking at him. And then also, as we know, Napoli were interested in him. And then obviously Bayern Munich came in at the end. But in terms of playing out from the back, I know Genoa don't really do that. They play a different system with 3 at the back. And he is quite good at long balls and switching the play. But I'm pretty sure because of his age, he's quite raw. He'll be able to play out from the back quite easily, because I did read into his stats and he did have quite a few assists, and the pass completion as well, because they don't pass quite a lot. lots of people are looking at his stats, and his stats were quite low in terms of passing, short, medium, or long. But if you actually look at his pass completion rate, that's where the devil in the detail is quite good. So yeah, that's the most important thing for me. And also in terms of like his aerial ability, as it says there on the graph, is 86.9, I think it was, percentile, top 5s in the league. So his heading is elite. So that's the most impressive thing, I thought, because we were getting done in set pieces by teams like Aston Villa and other teams as well. So we need someone that's good in the air. Emerson Royale and Davies, as good as the backups they have been, it's good to have someone that's more reassuring at the back, that can dominate and kind of lead from the back, because a lot of teams like to go over the top because we leave those channels open quite a bit. And having someone that knows where to be on the pitch positionally, that shows that he's got some type of football IQ already at his young tender age at 21. So they've actually compared him too as well to the Romanian Virgil van Dijk. Well, I'm not going to get excited about that. But yeah, that's him so far in a nutshell.
Sorry, Giles. Who was the last aerial dominant defender we've had? Centre back. I'm being serious.
I hear you.
Yeah,
like Jan and.
I mean, neither Toby or Jan were particularly prolific. They didn't have to be.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean? You mean dominant as in they just won every header in the box?
Yeah, when I watch Lewis Dunk at Brighton, I've always liked Lewis Dunk. Kid who comes on here a lot, Darren Atwood, mate of mine. We've been speaking for years about trying to get him at Spurs, but like when a ball is in the air and it's coming and someone else is just trying to ping it up long, he wins headers, dominates, wins headers. I can't remember a centre back at Spurs that we've had who has been like dominant in the air. And I was trying to think, like Eric Dier, all right, but I don't think he's massively dominant. HG, can you think of?
Adequate.
Yeah, I mean, can you think of?
I went to where the same. Some of the people said the same thing in the comments. King Hoddle said Goff. That's where I went, and I was 8, I think, when he signed.
Yeah, 87.
But it's one of those things that you just like a dominant centre back. When they're dominant in the air, you almost forget that they don't have to be good on the ground. And I think Spurs have had lots of centre backs in the last 10 years that have been very good on the ground and decent in the air, and not world beaters in the air, but not a weakness at all. And so to find a defender that, especially these days, where very few teams do just lump it into the box, like the old days of 4-4-2, we'd have wingers crossing the ball, man, a little man in the box. Those defenders have kind of gone. But to have someone, Romanian football might be a bit more like that. I don't know too much about it, but it's nice to have someone who's my size, like 6'3", clearly enjoys the physical side of it. And Van der Ven, to be fair, is also a large guy. He's 6'5", 6'6" even.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have those options, because we all thought, I think, that Romero was a bit small for a centre back, but I don't get the impression he gets done too often in the air. He gets done maybe with the flight of the ball, but not when it comes to actually jumping and winning headers. So I'm excited to see what it can happen, but I don't know. I guess I always worry a little bit when someone's really good at the air. Does that mean they're not very good with their feet? And it feels like in today's football, being good with your feet is more important.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it seems that he's also very good in the air, attacking the ball in the opponent's box, which we haven't had a real dominant threat in there coming from center back for a while, although Romero's actually gotten quite a few goals from that. But I mean, one of the questions I've got, HG, is are fans expecting potentially too much from a 21-year-old who's basically got half a season at top flight? As Ash said, he played last season at Serie B. He's got 38 league games at the second level last year, but really only half a season in Serie A. Are we expecting too much at this point?
It's one of those weird things. Like, had we just bought him, I don't think anyone would be expecting much. But because Bayern wanted him and he chose us over them, it's like added the anticipation level. I'm not expecting a world beater. Like, I still think that Romero and Van der Ven will be first choices, but I didn't expect too much from Van der Ven either. He only spent one season in the top level in German football before I think he played a few games his first year there, but then last season was a mainstay. It's the same with Dragusin. I don't really know what to expect, but I'm not expecting the next Ledley King. If it happens, then brilliant. But it's not. I'm just happy that we have an option that, more importantly, Ange trusts. Like the rest of us, none of us have ever really seen Dragusin play. We haven't even seen him play for Romania because their group was kind of a bunch of countries that none of us would be massively interested in. I think Israel win that. So I don't know, but I'm excited to have a third centre back. Like we all know that Royal can do a job. We all know that Davies has done a job. I'm quite happy with those two to play on the odd occasion, but to have an experienced player, I mean, somewhat experienced, but a guy who's an international, who's up and coming, that's kind of what we were going to get. It was either going to be someone who was 35 and on their way down, or someone who was 21 on their way up. And for a club like Spurs, clearly you want the second option.
Well, since you mentioned that he chose us over Bayern, that's one of my questions, Ash. Should we be worried about a player's mindset who chooses Spurs over Bayern?
I think you've got to put into some type of context that the kid actually came out and said he wanted to play in the Premier League since he was young. I think that was a big factor of it. Maybe Romanians perceive the Premier League as a bigger, more of attractive destination than the Bundesliga. And also, I think Big Ange has got a lot to do with his signing. Apparently, when things stalled a little bit and, Bayern came in at the last minute, Ange got on the phone as well and had another chat with the kids. So, I think Ange has got that magic touch. And to be fair, Bayern Munich, they are a bigger club than us. Let's face it. So if they come knocking, you're going to listen to that offer. You're going to take it seriously. I think what was in our favor is that, Romero is just coming back off the back of an injury, hamstring injury. And so is Mickey van der Ven. So in his mind, he's like, I'm definitely going to get game time here at a club. And the thing is as well, I'm thinking maybe Ange is saying to him, like, I want that push for a trophy, or I want to push for a title charge, and I want you to be a part of this. So maybe that was said. I'm just speculating here. But if he went to Bayern Munich, would he be first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice? They've got Kingman Jay. I know he's at the Asia Cup right now. But when he comes back, where would he be in the pecking order? You've got Upamecano. He's a regular starting centre-back for them. Also an international player. Where would he fit in that? And then they've got De Ligt. De Ligt's a Dutch international. So you've got to take those into consideration. Maybe he had to think about it. And yes, they were offering more wages as well. So you've got to think about that too. And he said, no, I want Spurs. And he's actually on 50K, 3 million a year. So he's not coming for the money. He's coming for the football and hopefully for the club as well. So for me, I know that there's agents been doing a lot of talk and a lot of fans have been unhappy. But for when he came out and he said, like, I'm choosing Spurs, for me, that just shows the type of character he is, in my opinion.
I think that's a fair statement. And I think this is something else I think most Spurs fans are pretty excited about is 12 months ago, there was only one player on this list who was on the playing squad with Tottenham. And in 1 year, we've essentially completely overhauled. And this obviously doesn't include, capable backups and people like Davies and Emerson. But this is the state of our defense, I guess, at this point. And the question I have for you, Gibbo, is do we need to add to this list? Or do you think fill in a few squad players like an Emerson and a Davies and we're pretty much good and we can focus on building the squad in other areas?
Well, it's getting there, isn't it? I mean, we've had to play Davies and Royale at centre-back. And they both, to be fair to them, they've both done all right. But you don't want to be doing that, do you? More often than not, if you both your centre-halves are out, you want to be replacing them with two centre-halves. And that is what we're looking to do. I mean, Dragusin's come in now and he'll cover one of those roles. Davies is injured. I'm not sure for how long. So you're probably looking at getting longer term another centre back in. And I think Davies and Royale can cover it fullbacks, but are you going to look to get fullbacks who are, a little bit similar to Porro and Udogie, or do you just have the two we've got who were sort of like the polar opposites. I don't know, but you just got to build. It's about building the squad, isn't it? We were desperate for another centre back to come in. I didn't fancy going to Old Trafford with, Royale playing next to a sort of like 75% fit Van der Ven. So I'm glad we've got this guy in. But yeah, it's just about building. You've got to build that squad. We let Sanchez go. We're light in that department. So I think it is just about building. Look at the ages there. That's what we can, like HG said, I think that's what we will be looking at more often than not, is the younger player who's on the way up. And, I think that's what we've got the potential to do. I think that's what the manager will be after. I think that's the type of player the club like to sign. And I think those sorts of players, like the Dragons obviously had a chat with Ange, and he thinks that's the best thing for him. And under Ange, I think that's what we're going to have. I think we're going to have more players that will want to do that, younger players, and who will choose to come to us over somewhere where, they might get instant success, but they're probably not going to play very much when everybody's there.
I mean, and that's the thing, isn't it? I've spent all day thinking, look, if I was in this position, what would I do? Even if I wasn't a Spurs fan, what would I do? And if you're thinking about playing time, then Spurs is probably the best option, right? You've got two ahead of you, probably. I know that Bayern, they have issues with De Ligt. I don't know how long he'll be there, but then you don't know how long Tuchel will be there either. Bayern is just a bit of a mess with its stability. So you're thinking, okay, well, if I want to go and establishing yourself at Bayern is just going to be really difficult, right? They bought the centre back they bought Kim Min-jae in the summer. He's the new main guy there. Upamecano and De Ligt are kind of fighting to be the guy next to him. And where does Dragusin go? But having said that, if Bayern really did offer 3 times the money that we did, right, which they could have done, they can afford it. There's no issue with them. Then I might have been tempted at 21 to be like, you know what? I sign a 5-year deal with them. I am set. I mean, he's set anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, but a 5-year deal with Bayern at 100 grand a week plus is serious money. It's crazy money. And you get it whether you play there or not. So you might have, I have 6 months to a year on the bench, and then maybe I get loaned out to some other Bundesliga side. But crucially, that money is secure. And at Spurs, as much as he's getting probably a 15 million guaranteed, it's still a lot less than what he would have been getting at Bayern. I might have been tempted. I'm probably quite surprised that he decided to take the offer of maybe a little bit more game time with us over a lot less money. I mean, that's just me, but I might have been swayed had they offered 3 times the money,
And Ash, what do you think about the idea? Do we need more defenders to shore up that defense, or we look at midfield? I noticed this comment comes in that Alistair says wants to stay and fight for a spot. Do you think we need to work more on the midfield, or where do you see the next needs to be filled at the squad?
Well, essentially, you look at what's happening right now. You obviously want to build for the future, but I think currently the weakness at the moment has to be the front 3. For me, we have a lot of bodies in there, but in terms of someone being super clinical up top, I think that's Spurs' biggest problem. That front 3 for me hasn't quite clicked. So we're not quite sure what the actual 3 is meant to be. I think in that final third, we need to be killers. So we need a killer up top. We create the most shots in the league. I think we scored the most open play goals in the league as well. But we're not accumulating enough points to be where we need to be in that league, if that makes sense. So it doesn't make sense having all those shots, having a great XG, etc. But we're not actually winning games at that level, at that rate. So for me, after losing someone like Harry Kane, who's been prolific for such a long time, I feel like when watching the game, when I'm actually watching it, I'm like, oh my days, if only we had someone to finish that dinner, if that makes sense. That's just me personally. I think because Son is gone, watching that Burnley game, it became a little bit more apparent who's going to put the goals away. But then if I took that aside, I would look at obviously Basuma's gone away to the African Cup of Nations, and so is Sarr. So when Skipp comes in, or Hojbjerg comes in that position, we don't know who's going to be in that midfield against Manchester United. For me, that area there needs to be addressed, because the 8 on the right-hand side, when Sarr comes off, we've seen it many a times, the performance level drops off and everyone's scratching their head. There's something not quite right about the midfield either. So I think that's the reason why we've been linked with O'Connor Gallagher from Chelsea, because we're trying to link that. We're trying to not let the level go down when we take a Sarr off. We're trying to keep that level performance and the attacking impotence to be strong, you know. Or like on the left-hand side, we've got options on the left of the 8 or the 10, whatever you want to call it. I think they're creative. We've got Lo Celso there. Obviously, Maddison's coming back. And you've got Kulu can also play on that left-hand side as well on that 8. But on the right-hand side, we kind of flattered to deceive, in my opinion. So I think the 8 on the right-hand side needs that. When I look at Celtic, for example, I looked at, they had a Tate on the left who was more creative but could win the ball back as well. And on the right-hand side, they had Matt O'Reilly. Now, I'm looking at Spurs and I'm like, have we equaled that style of play in that system for Spurs? I'm not too sure if we've got an attacking outlet. Even when it comes to Sarr, I do critique him. Sarr's an amazing player, by the way. I love him so much. And you can see how critical he is to the way we play, and we miss him so much. He's almost got like a free role, but what he does is he actually helps whoever's in the 6 to become a double pivot at times. And sometimes he fills in on the right. And because he fills in on the right, when we try to build out from the back, he kind of helps Porro to transition up the field alongside a Kulusevski or a Johnson or whoever's on that right. And what we do is we form about 2 triangles, if that makes sense. And we do like little short interchanges of passes. Sarr's really good at that, and he's able to carry the ball. I think that's the difference between him and a Skipp or a Hojbjerg, that ability to carry the ball in tight spaces and help us to progress the ball out of the pitch, because teams do like to press that side where Porro is, because Porro inverts quite a bit, and so does Udogie. And when Porro inverts, that leaves space on that right-hand channel. You need a midfielder that's going to be able to help out Porro when he does come inside, and you can't leave all that work to him, because Johnson at times, he doesn't always get back. He doesn't always get back to help out Porro on that right-hand side, and that's why we're exposed. So for me, I would say an 8. Sorry for a long way.
No.
That's fine.
I was laughing. I think me and HG were probably smiling at the same thing there.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think I like Hojbjerg, but I just don't think he's long for this squad under Ange. And I think Skipp probably is, because he's homegrown. But, you know, you've got to look at it and be honest. And you're looking at it probably thinking, if Ange can move out Hojbjerg and get someone else, a player in of his own choosing, to fill the role he wants Hojbjerg to do, more with how the manager wants him to do it. And that's probably what he'll do. I think that is probably the only other move we'll make in this transfer window. As Ash, you said about the forward line, I totally agree with you. We've got one elite finisher, who is Son, who's not available at the minute. I think we have got plenty of bodies in that role now, but I think I look at it and I think Son's the elite finisher. Kulusevski on his day when he's at it is an extremely good player. Not top player, but he's still young, but he's very good. Then I look at the rest. Solomon, don't know a lot about him. He's only played about 180 minutes, if that. I'm not sold on Johnson. I think we'll probably. I don't want to get too stuck into him, but I'm not sold on him. I think Werner will be part of the 11. Even when everybody's fit, I think he will play. I think he will play on the left. And Richarlison, he's not clinical, is he? He needs too many chances. He's never been clinical, really. He's never been a clinical finisher. But that isn't going to be done in January. That is a summer move. And I think that's why Werner's been brought in. And we'll talk about Werner a bit later.
The January window is usually, I mean, Spurs have used it pretty well in recent years, but the January window is usually to plug the gaps that your squad has, right? And we found all those players from Juventus, and we found Porro last January, and we've bought first teamers, people that can play week in, week out, and we're all happy about it, right? And And so it's nice, like to think that, okay, maybe we could probably swap Hojbjerg for Gallagher in a perfect world, but I don't really want Gallagher, and if only for the price it would cost. Like, that's a lot of money for someone who in effect is a rotation player, when I think that maybe I might want some of that money to buy the strikers that we need, the people that will score the goals. Because if you look at our front six, and you guys have said the same thing, Son is the only one that we all think, okay, yeah, we want to keep him around. Everybody else is a little bit, we're not sure, we could do better. And that includes Johnson, who we spent a lot of money on just 6 months ago. None of us look at him and think, okay, that guy is going to be the guy who could score 15 goals from a wing, which is what we're going to need. So I'd rather keep that money to hopefully upgrade on Richarlison, or to find, because again, Son is 32 this summer. So he's not on the way up. But I feel as if, because all the teams, most of the Premier League teams, are almost looking for strikers. They are looking for someone to put the ball in the net. That Spurs are going to have to be even more creative to find the right one. And it may well be someone similar to what Son was. I mean, Son had scored in the Bundesliga, but not a huge amount. He wasn't the famous striker that everyone was chasing. And that's how we got him when we did, back when, Poch was in charge and we were, sixth in the table. So I just hope that whatever money we have, and we seem to have a fair bit of money every summer, but whatever money we have, we focus, certainly this summer, on the attack. We need to find players. None of us really trust Brian. I mean, Brian's going to go. None of us really trust Solomon, because we don't know too much. And we want someone who's going to put it in the net regularly from those wide areas. And of course, they're difficult to find, but that's kind of what we're looking for. If Kulusevski is better in the middle, we need to find someone who can cross, who can shoot, who can. Basically, you're looking for the next Salah. Is what you're looking for.
Yeah, and HG. Let's be honest. I know this. We don't want to talk about this or think about it, but Son ain't getting no younger.
No.
He is our elite finisher. He is our goal scorer. He's the guy we look to, and there is nobody else behind him that even looks like they can fill that void. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is, it's sometimes his performances haven't been as good as they were. I think he has lost that yard of pace, but he can finish off either foot. He is an elite finisher. And so you've got to bring that body in, because if gradually over time, I like I'm saying, it's not me saying Son out, but over time, he's getting older. He's going to be phased out. You need that someone who can score the goals, so those other guys that we have brought in, the younger bodies, can feed this guy and feed off him, if you get what I mean. That we need to be looking at doing that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, we can all sit here and say that Richarlison has scored 5 goals in 6 games or whatever it is, which is great, right? That is not a record to be sniffed at. But if you've watched the games that we all have, we all know it should be 10 in those 5 games. It could be a whole lot more than it has been, and you want to improve. I'd love Richarlison to get calmer in front of goal. I don't think it's going to happen. So it's a question of how many chances can we create. If we create so many that it doesn't matter, brilliant. And I think we can still improve in those wide areas to do so. We haven't seen. We've never seen Bentancur and Maddison play together, which I think would be great. Like, we spent all the last 2 seasons watching Bentancur and Hojbjerg be the best midfield pairing we've seen in a while, and they've barely been on the pitch together for various reasons. So it's like we know that even though we've seen great results and good performances, we're nowhere near the best 11 that we could play. We've not scratched the surface of what we can do. But when it comes to the moves we make now in January, I think we're looking more at kind of getting rid of a few that we don't want to keep around, even if it's just a wage dump, and possibly looking for, I'm really interested about the Werner thing. If we really think that the buy option will ever happen, or if it's just a 6 month cover our bases, or if it's going to be a guy who, for is it 15 million quid if we wanted to buy him permanently? That's peanuts, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. Like, I don't think he will sign long term, but he's definitely got a chance to be part of it. If he proves himself in training and Ange trusts him, then I could easily see it happening. What do you guys think?
Well, let me jump on there, because this is the question. You mentioned it. We haven't seen Bentancur and Maddison on the pitch at the same time. We haven't seen Maddison and Sarr and Bentancur on the pitch at the same time. There's lots of different combinations that I think will open up space, because Maddison's definitely a threat that the defense has to respect from a shot from outside the box. He has that ability to hit that shot that opens up space. And I'm also curious about, with Werner Son, and maybe Johnson. I know how you guys feel about Johnson. I'm jury's out for me on him, but all three of those have electric pace. I mean, even Son at this point is slow. He's coming on 32, but he's not slow. And with that kind of pace up front, stretching defenses, with creativity in the midfield, do we need, like somebody was saying in the comments, an Ivan Toney, or could you make it work with three very quick forwards who have good movement around the box, make good intelligent runs, and just finish enough of the chances because we create such a huge volume. We don't have to spend a ton of money on an ideal Kane replacement. That would be my thought. I don't know that. I'm glad there's no one to buy in the January window like that, because I think waiting till the summer and seeing how this next 3 months plays out makes a lot of sense. In fact, I kind of looked into Werner a little bit. I had some time this morning and did some comparisons. And again, I'm statistically speaking, I'm not saying on the eyeball test, but on statistically speaking, he does look a lot like Gapco. He looks a lot like Chiesa in terms of how their numbers stack up. What is your thought, Ash, on what kind of player we've got with Werner, and what do you think his potential? What would you see as a successful 6-month loan in terms of goal involvement and that sort of thing from him?
For me, Werner is best suited as a wide inside forward. What I mean by that is what Son's doing at the moment on that left-hand side. That's basically what he's going to be doing. He's going to start from out to in. He's not a typical winger where he dribbles past players typically, but he's more of a kind of Rashford style player where he kind of goes into the space. He's got good movement off the ball. He's explosive. He's more athletic. Dynamism is the word I'd use to describe him. I think the reason why he hasn't done so well at other clubs is because sometimes the ideologies that the coaches want to give to him, they played him in like a lone striker role, which I think he needs someone to play off. He did that at RB Leipzig under their current manager, and at Chelsea with Tuchel. He's also played as a 10 under Tuchel as well. And under Lampard, I think he played in the front three, but in the front three, he was a narrow front three, as opposed to, I know Ange likes to have his wingers, Johnson hugging the touchline and Son touching the touchline. I think that would be a similar role for Werner, someone that's going to be a wide inside forward. So he just basically makes those runs inside the box. And I don't see him being super prolific like a top bagsman, I'll call him, a top goal scorer. But what he will do, his intensive pressing and his shot creation actions will provide goals for the other players. So his runs will stretch the team, the opposition. And so the space in behind for midfielders to drop into, they're going to have a lot more shots to kind of progress. I'll see him and Udogie will be interchanging quite a bit, because we all know that Udogie likes to play almost like a 10 because he plays so high up in that left-hand channel. What will happen is you'll see Werner pull wide and those two will swap over. You'll see Udogie wide sometimes and you'll see Werner inside. And that's where a lot of those shots for Werner will come in. Whereas sometimes Johnson's a bit hesitant to shoot, Werner's the opposite. Whether he scores those chances will be something else, but he has a variety of shots that he takes off in different angles, in different spaces. That's one thing I would say about Werner. He is 27, so he has got that experience from that World Cup that he played for Germany. I know he's not in the current side, but I do remember watching him in the World Cup. For Chelsea, his expected chances and expected goals was through the roof, because I think he hit the post or the bar at least 4 to 5 times. I know there's loads of highlight reels going around with him missing sitters as well. So I reckon Ange and Lange, they both said they were, fans of him. They've looked at him for a long time. There's a debate whether, it was a thing where he was offered around to clubs and they were like, oh, Ange, do you want him? And then like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take him. Do you know what I mean? Or if it was a guy that they've identified and said, look, this is the person we're going to be looking for. But in my opinion, what he will do is he will draw players to him. So sometimes when he is coming inside into central areas, he'll probably draw 2 or 3 players towards him, and that would take a player off someone else, like a Richarlison. And at times, like you guys were saying, he will come off the bench. He might not always start, but if he does start through the middle, I think he'll be almost like a sacrificial lamb, where he will make loads of runs up and down, and that will pull defenders out. Centre backs and full backs will be pulled away because he's literally going to be sometimes a false nine, sometimes a nine that runs in behind. But he likes to play with space in front of him, and that's what allows him to shoot and get in there. When it's a thing where the ball comes across the box really quick and he's got less time to think, that's when you see the mistakes. That's where he's not a killer, and that's the reason why everyone's like, oh, I'm not sure if Werner's going to be as clinical. And he only had 2 hot seasons, I remember, in RB Leipzig. But that was because, in my opinion, Nagelsmann had a system geared for the whole team. So the whole team were outperforming their expected goals. And I think it's a similar thing for this one with Ange. Ange is a really attacking manager, a bit like Nagelsmann, but the system's slightly different. But I imagine that he would have saw him as an important cog in a wheel in a system that is very attacking. And I think that's how we're going to use him.
HG, the resident German football expert, I think that seems a reasonable analysis. What is your thoughts, and what was your reaction when he first got signed, and what do you think he's able to do for us?
Okay, so caveat time. I never wanted us to sign Timo Werner. When we were looking at him before we went to Chelsea, I was like, this guy is basically a hit and hope merchant, scored a lot of goals in a very good Leipzig side, but I just didn't think that the intelligence was there. Like, he's fast, but does he really know what he's doing? I don't think my opinion of him has changed that much. This Chelsea days, he wasn't overwhelming. However, as a 6-month loan deal, as someone who can, as he said in his opening interview, he can play all 3 positions. He has pace to burn. We are short of attackers right now. Like, for the next 2 or 3 games, we are short. I don't want to see Dane Scarlett on the bench. Sorry, Dane, I don't. Right? If Timo Werner is the guy who plays down the left because we would rather him there than Johnson, I'm okay with that, because Johnson can't play down the left. And as Ash said, Timo Werner can. That's what he does best. So to me, it's a 6-week, we'll see him play, maybe. We'll see him start the cup game against City, maybe. I was hoping it was going to be an easier one.
It's City.
Yeah, I know. But I just, like, with Werner, like, to me, he's got the Lamella spot on the bench. That's kind of where I see him. I don't, like, if Ange actually plays him, then I think we'll sign him in the summer regardless. Right? If he actually plays a lot of games when people are fit, then, but I don't, to me, he's the pseudo number 9 sub right now. Like, if Richarlison is starting as the 9 and we need to have a possible maybe central striker, then we might move Son into the middle and stick Werner down the left wing. But I don't think right now he's going to be more than that. Like, someone talked about Werner getting 10 goals. If Werner gets us 10 goals, we're signing him.
Oh,
but I don't think that he's going to get the minutes to score those 10.
That would be amazing. 10 goals.
It would be amazing. So I like the signing because I think it's exactly what Spurs need right now. But if he's getting good minutes in March, April time when people are fit, we'll sign him. But I don't. When Solomon is back and Maddison and Kulusevski, and like, we've spent all that money on Johnson, I think Ange is truly invested in giving him minutes. That Werner, to me, kind of takes the role that maybe Brian Hill has, where he's there and he might come on. Maybe he's I don't know how much we're going to use him, but I think it's basically just as a cover that could turn into a jewel, but probably won't.
Gibbo, would you be okay with this next United game? We got Werner a general lineup, but Werner, Son through the middle, and Johnson on the right to get Richie on the bench. Would that make you happy?
Far be it from me to disagree with HG. He's got a far better knowledge of football, and especially Werner. I think there's a very good chance we could sign him. I think that if you look at it as it is, I think he improves that squad. I think he improves the set of forwards we've got, and for the money they're quoting that you can buy him for, I think if he plays anywhere near to the best he can, I think we'll sign him. I think it's like, for that amount of money, it's it's not pennies, but it's not massive, is it? And I actually think, I look at it and I think he will play. I think, apart from Son and Kulusevski, I think he's the best forward we've got. And that's not me, getting all excited because he's a new player. Because I'm genuinely not like that. But I do think he'll play. I think he's got more goals in him, even though he's not prolific. He does miss chances. I think he's got more goals in him than a Johnson, than a Solomon, than a Hill. Possibly the same as what, he's got as many goals in him as Richarlison will get. So I think he will. I think he will get more minutes than you think, HG. I genuinely do.
I guess this is the question, right? Like, if you think that the centre forward needs to be the best finisher at the club because they get the most chances, and I think we've seen that they do get the most chances, then you want Son to be the number 9 because he's the best finisher we've got, and it's not even close. And then, then you might want the pace that Son offers down the left. Then Werner will give you it. And it's clear that Brian is never going to get the chance to really do that long term. So Werner is an improvement, and Brian will be sent somewhere else. I get that. But there are going to be games when we need Richarlison as the 9. I firmly believe that. There will be games that suit him perfectly, and then Son will play down the left and Werner will be on the bench. I think it's a case of, if Ange is thinking about a second left winger, bearing in mind that Brian's on his way out, Perisic is injured, Solomon is, who knows where he's really going to play, then you want Werner down the left instead of Richarlison, right? And that's the choice. I think Werner, to me, is maybe the sub 9 behind Richarlison and probably the sub left winger behind Son. And there'll be moments when they switch positions, but if signing Werner means I never have to see Richarlison play left wing, I'm sold. Brilliant. For 6 months, done. Because that's my concern.
I think Son absolutely took Trippier to the cleaners. He really did. I don't think he particularly wants to play left wing anymore. And I thought he scored a brilliant goal against Bournemouth, but he didn't. And against Brighton, his performance weren't great. He looked like he was running in treacle. He hasn't got that explosive pace anymore. He doesn't really look like, apart from when he played against Trippier, he doesn't really look like he wants to get at his fullback and really run off him. I agree with you, HG. It's not even close. His finishing is elite. It's far better than anyone else's. And I think, I don't know a lot about football tactics and I don't really look into much of it. But like they do say that the centre forward for when he at Celtic and his other clubs, that he doesn't really want them to touch the ball that often unless they're closing down and unless they're just having a shot at goal or finishing something. And that'd be perfect for Son. And I think,
it's also perfect for Werner. I mean, as far as you want a forward who's going to press, who's going to harry your defenders, that's Werner. And that's, I think, with the other big appeal, even if it's a short-term loan, I think that's the appeal, is to get some energy up top on the press.
Yeah, I also agree. I think on that left-hand side, I saw it a little visual from the Spurs website. And literally the first clip they showed on the training ground was of Werner on the left, cutting a ball straight into Richarlison's path. So there you go. Need us anymore. But guys, thanks for having me on. I'm going to have to shoot off. And next time I'm going to switch it up so I'll be able to do a full hour. But yeah, again, thanks for everyone in the chats.
Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you helping out.
Yeah, great conversation as well. But yeah, guys, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Take it easy, mate.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, so I think we I didn't get a chance to ask Ash the trivia question that we kicked around on the chat group amongst us, but I will ask the audience just so we're on this Werner topic. So without cheating, Werner is the 6th German to play for Spurs, and I'll give you the first one because no one's going to know that Max Zeberg played in 1907-08 for Spurs. The question is, all right, let's get how fast can the audience get us the other 4 Germans that have played for Spurs? And I know let's find how fast we can get it up. All right.
They'll get them quick. So what do you think, though, Jack?
Yeah.
So, like us asking you, do you see what do you see Werner's role being? Do you think we're going to sign, or do you think he's like just a bench warmer?
I think the answer is what you're saying, HG, which is if he actually is getting minutes in April, and then yes, he's going to sign. And for that to happen, my estimation is he's got to have at least. He's not going to score 10 goals. I mean, that would be not 10. I can't imagine that would be the case. He's not going to get
None
that.
of our forwards are going to score 10 goals apart from Son before none of
Richie
them
could get there. No,
Richie
could get to 10.
10 from
now. Oh, yes, right. Yeah. But I mean, my feeling is that what if you got six goals and 3 assists, or let's call it 9 goal involvements? Because one of the things that we lost with when we lost Ivan to his knee injury is we don't have a lot of service coming off that left as much as we did. Particularly feeding Richie. I mean, that was the biggest hit to Richie's goal production this year, is not having somebody who could serve that ball over the top, because Udogie's not a crossing, left back, and Porro can, but we need service from both sides. And so, and Decky has been hit or miss with his service as well. So if we could get someone who actually is going to feed Richie a little bit more, or whoever's playing down the middle, and if that's Werner, I think if he can get that production, particularly on the assist side, then yeah, I mean, 15 million pounds or whatever it could be. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you're saying, that's rounding error. I mean, that is gate receipt. I mean, chicken feed in this country.
They just want his wages off their bill, because he gets paid a fortune. Right, yeah. So they're basically. I mean, weirdly enough, had we offered 15 million now, we probably could have signed him permanently. I genuinely believe that,
and I think that would have been a dumb 15 million. But if he actually works out, and you actually see him playing regularly, and he becomes part of a 4-forward rotation. He's one of the 4 that you continually rotating through, in the similar way that you see Jota or Gapco at Liverpool picking up those minutes. I think that he could be signed, and it would be a steal, because he's probably got 2 to 3 productive years, and for 15 million as your 4th or 5th forward, you're going to need guys like that who have those sorts of qualities if you're going to really challenge for the title.
Get to the summer, Jack. Look at it this way: you get to the summer, if Werner has a decent second half of the season for us, and I mean decent, where he's productive and he has some goal involvements, scores a few goals, which is something that Brian Hill doesn't do. Johnson's got 1. How many's Kulusevski got? 3. Solomon, I know, hasn't played a lot and has got none. What's Richarlison got this season? Is it 5 all in, or is it 6?
Yeah, I think.
So say Werner gets, like you said, 4 or 5, 6 or 7 goal whatever involvements. So then you go into next season, you've got Son, you've got Kulusevski, who can also play midfield. Johnson ain't going nowhere. And you've got, so if you moved on Richarlison and got a really top centre forward who can score goals, and you also bought Werner in for that money, he's being reasonably productive. He's a squad player, isn't it? It's got to be about building the squad, building the quality of the squad. I think that would be a decent signing.
Yeah,
I think that would be the key for me.
If you move Richarlison on and get an absolutely clinical centre forward,
there you go. Now we're talking.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not getting Werner in. Right, we're hanging our hat on him. He's our number 9.
Agreed.
He's part of that squad rotation in the forwards. Then I think it'll be a decent sign. I really hope it works, because I think it will be if you go into next season looking like that, and that's what you're thinking of doing. Yeah. I think it's
if you bring in an Ivan Toney or Wally Watkins level type of forward as your center forward and get Richarlison out, then that opens up space for a Werner. I think is that reasonable, HG? If you had a new center forward?
a lot of it depends on what Ange sees Kulusevski's future as in he's clearly going to be at Spurs, but is he more of a midfielder than is he more of a 10 than he is a wide player? Like, I still think, and we've said this even when Ange joined, that Kulusevski is more of a 10 in this system than he is a winger. He doesn't have those tricks. He doesn't have the pace. Like, he can get around people, but it's not a guarantee. And even he's not really sure how he's going to do it. And I just, if he really feels that Kulusevski's future is, as a 10, right, as a creative player in the middle, then we need wingers. We will still need wingers, whether it's Johnson down the right and I mean, Solomon down the left is maybe a tricky, but you still need extras because Brian is not a long-term player at Spurs. Perisic, we know, is leaving anyway. So we are relatively short. And if we think Son is a better 9 in the system, like if the other 9 players are creating chances, then you just stick Son in the box and say, finish them off, right?
Yeah.
The reason why it doesn't work is that Son, when he's there, thinks, well, give me the ball. Like these guys can't get me the ball. I have to go and get it. I have to go wide and become more useful. And it's worked. It's helped Richarlison get better because they finally went back to, in effect, their best positions. But it's just that when the rest of the team is contributing, then you can put Son where he is best. And I worry that Werner, is he really the type? Like Werner is basically Brennan Johnson, but German. Like he's fast and he can score, but do you trust him as a winger? No. Do you trust him as a striker? No. And when we've invested all that money in Johnson, like I'd love to see Werner do it, but I want to see something different. What I want is a Perisic at 21, 22 who can cross the ball with quality regularly. We don't have that. I mean, Porro is probably the only one who can, and the odds of him being that far forward, I mean, he tries to, but I want to have a wide player that can actually cross the ball. The dream would be someone like Ginola, who could cross the ball, who could score goals, who was a physical presence, who worked for the team. Like, that's what you want. And, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to find. But to me, right now, Werner is what Danjuma was last year. He's a loan signing to cover a few positions, and maybe we'll need him. And I'm sure in the next 6 weeks we probably will. But after that, when we've got players back who are actually contracted to the club long term that Ange may want to keep around, that will be the interesting part.
Well, he's got a month. He's probably got a month to prove that he's worth holding on to, I guess, because you're saying when everyone's healthy, and that's a big if, because we now know, it's 2 in and 2 out if you read that both Gio and Davies are down with hamstrings, right? And interestingly, we sign a right-handed center back, and all of a sudden Romero is rumored to want to play on Sunday. So we know we'll do a regular show on Friday that previews the game against United. But Gibbo, what is your expectation? What would you like to see as far as a setup for the United match in terms of do you put Romero in, or do you say, yeah, let's give you another week? We've got a kid that we can drop in who's healthy. We'll go ahead and play him with Van de Ven in the middle and put Romero on the bench. Or what do you want to see in the lineup on Sunday?
I want to see the best side we can put out, mate. If whether it's Romero, if he's not fit enough, and we have to put Dragusin in, that's what we do. Back four picks it. The rest of them pick themselves. Van de Ven, Udogie, Porro. Midfield.
That's the question. That's the question.
Yeah.
Do we play Kulu in the midfield, or do we put him up on the right wing?
Well, I would. Yeah. I mean, Mr. Glass is unfit again, isn't he? So I think you've got to go. Bentancur will play the 6, be captain. I think you play Kulu in the advanced midfield role. I'd play Hojbjerg. I know he doesn't really play well in this system, and he's not long term, but I think Skipp's really, really struggled at times. Neither of them are athletic enough or dynamic enough. But I just think Hojbjerg's got a little bit more about him, so I'd play those 3. And then Johnson plays, Richarlison plays, and I'd go Werner on the left. But I think if Romero is fit, I think he'll play him.
HG, what are your thoughts?
I think the midfield, to me, I agree with Gibbo. Like Bentancur and Hojbjerg, they work well together. We know that. So whether he can cover Sar's role, of course he can't. But the fact that he and Bentancur play well together means he should be there above Skipp. That's it, right? If Hojbjerg and Skipp are basically the same, where they're not really comfortable, I trust Hojbjerg's shooting more. I trust his passing more. I trust his... I trust him more, right? Like I trust him more, and the fact that he plays well with Bentancur is a massive plus. I know that he wants to go. I mean, I believe that, and I believe that Ange wants to put some trust in Skipp. That's why Skipp started the last game over Hojbjerg. I think he's thinking long term, but I just that third one, like if Lo Celso isn't fit, then it has to be Kulusevski. in a perfect world for me, I would rather have Lo Celso be the third one and Kulusevski on the right wing, because I want us to have the ability to keep the ball and to play through teams. And we've struggled sometimes. Like if we can't get the ball to Richie and he can't hold it up, we need someone else up there who can hold it up. And I don't think Johnson can. And I'm not sure about Werner or whoever would play down the left. So the ability to keep the ball on the floor and play around Man United. And you have to remember, like Man United away last year, it was Man United's best performance of the season. They absolutely slaughtered us from start to finish, and we couldn't cope. So even though I know they're not as good, even though I know that they've had a bad year, it's still
healthy,
possible. They're getting healthy, exactly. And it's all about balance. Like Man United's midfield has been unbalanced for most of the season, which is why they've struggled. If they find someone to go alongside Casemiro, then it might work. But Casemiro's coming back from injury, so you just don't know. But I would rather see Johnson's pace off the bench against a tired side than I would hoping that he could maybe do something if we get the ball to him. I think we might struggle. I think Man United will make it difficult for us, and if we can't move the ball forward on the ground without the quality of Son down the left, it's a problem. So I think if it was me right now, it would be Kulusevski right wing, Richarlison in the middle, and probably Werner down the left, because who else is there, right? Like I don't want Johnson down the left because Werner can do it and he's done it. That's basically it. But if Kulusevski has to go into midfield, then maybe it almost certainly will be Johnson, Richie, and Werner up top, which I don't really want to see. That seems to me. Go on.
You can't play. You've got to do that, mate, because you cannot play Bentancur, Skipp, and Hojbjerg in that midfield three.
No, and
you just can't do that.
And weirdly, if we did, it's almost then. Like I've said for months, Hojbjerg is not a 6, right? He's not a 6. But in that situation, when you've got 3 players that, to me, like Bentancur can do anything. Like he's the best midfielder we have. He's absolute quality. He can do everything. But like Skipp is going to be the one who would sit then, even though I don't think he has the ability to play the 6 in the way that Ange wants. I would rather, like, if his role is like, I'm going to be in the middle and that's it. And then Hojbjerg and Bentancur can be either side of me. They can go forward. They can come back. They can pretty much go wherever they want. But I am just going to sit here and do very little. Just stop attacks. Then those 3 could work, but only if Skipp is the one that sits and Hojbjerg and Bentancur have the ability to go wherever they want with the ball. And they can be defensive if they need to, and they can be when they need to, because that's the only way that 3 could work. Otherwise, Johnson down the right, like we all know he can, but he just doesn't, not enough. And so it's a concern. It's a good, like we all know he can beat anyone for pace down that side, but if he gets there, then what? That's the worry. I still haven't seen enough for me to think that he really is more than just someone who passes it to someone else.
The Johnson convo, HG, I think we need to have on an early show. Me and you, and we'll get into it properly, because we can go on.
I know he's young, and I know that I'm not expecting him to be Gareth Bale from day one, right? It's not like the fact that I don't really trust him when it comes to what he does with the ball. Okay, that's probably just for me. But when I watch him play for Spurs, I've been underwhelmed. Like Ash said it when he was on earlier, he doesn't track back. It's a problem. Because what we really want is Porro going forward. Porro going forward works when you have Sarr covering for him. But if Sarr's not there, everything else slows down. The cogs don't work as well. And it's a problem. Like you need to be more than just what you're in the team to do right now. We are down to those numbers where it matters how you view the team part of the game. And I'm not the only one who doesn't see it, sadly, from Brennan. Not yet.
Yeah. I mean, I did say I'm as I said, for me the jury's out just because of his age and lack of time playing, and I just always know to be patient with players. I mean, we know what we've got with Richarlison. We knew what we had with Richarlison when we bought him. I mean, so I don't think there's any question of what we got there, and you can either decide that he's good enough to sit on the bench or he needs to be out of the club and free up the space. With Johnson, I will say in the Burnley game, I think I'm correct. He's got 2 interceptions in our own half coming back. I started to see in recent games a little bit more conscious effort of at least being there in a defensive support. He's got to do a lot more of that, and he needs to. And I don't know. I'd like to implant in his brain the mindset of Emerson in terms of believing in himself, because Emerson has no reason to back himself as much as he does, in my opinion, and does things like you say. He makes me nervous whenever I see him on the ball, but yet he's not making as many mistakes as I would have expected. Johnson, I don't think he backs himself to do what he's given. He almost looks like Sessegnon when he was trying to protect himself from injury. He just doesn't seem to be convinced that he's got the ability that clearly his coaches in the past, both at Forest and with Ange, see in him, and maybe he looks different on the training pitch. We don't get to see that sort of thing.
Well, me and HG spoke about this before, and we said, when we were talking about buying players, we said we'd rather have Gibbs White from Forest at the time. I think me and HG both said that. I know they play different roles, but I've seen nothing different from Johnson playing for Spurs than what I expected. I've seen nothing. I'm not massively shocked. I've seen nothing different. I genuinely, and I don't, and it's not me having a go at him because I didn't really rate him at Forest. I don't think he is worth the money we've paid for him. I don't think he's that great, and I haven't seen anything different. And I was hoping I would. I was hoping in a better team, being coached a different way, where he was where attack was the focus more, that he would. But I see players bringing the ball forward, and I see what everybody's saying, that Johnson is best at running into space. I see reams of space, and I see him just stay level with his defender, receive the ball, and then lay it off. I very, very rarely see him. I've seen players point into the space. I think it was against Burnley. Someone was like, run into that space. I don't see him sort of like just take off and say, play that ball into there. He's done it a couple of times, and Richarlison scored off it.
Yeah, it says he gets assists when he does. He's got 4 assists doing that. He just needs to do a lot more of it.
But way too often, he takes the easier, safe option. Very, very often he does that.
See, I mean, this is the crazy thing. Like we all know he's got pace to burn, and we've seen he's very effective when he does it. Right, so I could handle that he doesn't track back as much as he maybe should, because he's not really in the team for that. Right, there should be a midfielder that can cover Porro. I get that, but that's not what he's there. But what he's there is make those runs, and he doesn't. He doesn't make those runs behind the defence often as he should. If we're going to get Werner in the team because of his pace, and you don't use that pace, then why are you there? We all know that pace scares defenders. They will retreat because of the fact that he is in the side. And when we've got good passers that can get it round the back to him, then great. But he's got to make those runs. And I feel like it's the same with Gibbo. He comes short too much. He doesn't go round the back. I would rather he was offside but making those runs than just being the guy who sticks on the touchline. Because frankly, if you're going to do that, then I'll stick Porro there and I'll play Emerson at right back. That to me would make more sense. Because we all know that, Porro has the balls to do stuff, to attempt stuff, to try something different. I know that Johnson is young, and I'm not writing him off. I just the things that he's good at. I want to see it. I want to see it all the time.
I want to see more of it. I mean, there was 2 instances in the Burnley game where he took a long ball in stride on the left, brought it right out of the air and kept on moving. He did it twice. And so he clearly technically has a lot of skill, because that's not easy at full flight.
Remember when he skinned Gvardiol, who's no slouch?
Yeah.
And he
gets the assist for the game winner.
And he scored a goal against Sheffield United that got ruled out, where he sort of used his pace and got behind, and was a lovely finish. In
the North London derby, he was offside, but he brought it down and smashed it home. He clearly has the ability.
He needs to find that confidence and arrogance and belief, which if he's going to play at a team like Spurs and we're looking at where we want to be, he is going to need to do that. Because I know Ange brought him in, but I think if it ain't working, I don't think Ange will persist, you know, because when you listen to interviews at the start of the season, he's like, you know, if it doesn't work for a while, then it will change because I'll make it change. So I think it will be like, if it's not happening, I need someone who's going to do that.
And there was another quote that was actually, I think, from his dad, where he kind of, Brendan Johnson's dad, if you don't know, Jack, played football at the highest level in the Premier League, right? So like, and they quoted him as saying that Liverpool were also in for him, and he chose Spurs because it was maybe less pressure to go there. And I'm thinking, that's an alarm bell to me. Like, I understand the logic. Like, Liverpool were going for titles every season, and at the start of the year, no one thought Spurs would be where they are. So I get it. But when you're costing that much money, like, and again, for Spurs, that is a significant amount. It wasn't a 25 million, we'll pick a young homegrown player and see what happens. You do expect a little bit more for that kind of money. And maybe it won't take 6 months. Maybe it'll take a year before he really gets going. And maybe he's played more minutes than we would have liked because we've had all the injuries we've had. All of those things are true. But if his mentality is, I want the safe option, that's a problem.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. And my feeling is that, you know, a lot of people were writing Porro off after 3 months. So for me, I will say, if by Thanksgiving, the November international break next season, Johnson's still the same player he is today, then it will be a very expensive squad option and homegrown type of place in the roster, ticking that box. And he's going to be playing cup games in early rounds, and he's going to be a rotation option and all that sort of stuff. It'll just be a lot of money. And I'll say, good news, we got Vicario for 17. We got a Doggy for 15 or 20 or whatever it was. We got this, and his Dragusin turns out to be a great player, or a serviceable player. We got him for 30 million euros all in, plus Spence's salary. I mean, so the good news is you can afford to make mistakes like Johnson and potentially Richie if you're also hitting home runs on your lower price players. It all works out on the average spend, because one thing we all know that will never happen while Levy's in charge is we're never going to be having to shed payroll because of FFP problems. So the good news is they're managing this a little bit well on the financial side. So that's one bonus.
If Johnson ends up, though, being a squad player and not the guaranteed starter right wing, so be it. That's a perfectly good role for him. But if it just doesn't work out for him as the nailed-on starting forward, and you have to bring someone in who's better, but he becomes an impact sub, and when you know, as we've seen this year, you've got injuries, and that's the role he fulfills, and he can fill in different places, then so be it. Really good squad player. If he doesn't mature into this player that, you know, we really want him to, that's the way it is.
I mean, it's like, I don't think he's ever going to be the tricky winger that you might want. Like, his asset is his pace. His asset is making those runs behind,
and he can whip a ball in at pace. That's where he's gotten his assists.
I haven't seen it. He's crossed it low along the ground with no one around him to do so. That's different to me.
Yeah, okay. I might have overplayed that.
It's not what Perisic did. Perisic gets half.
Oh no, I wasn't comparing him to that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand, but like if his role is put me through, and I can just put it across the box for the striker to finish, brilliant. If we can do that, and he can do that often, fantastic. That's his job. But he's got to be making those runs, and I don't think he has. Like, I feel like when I watch it again, I know we're going too much onto Johnson, probably.
Yeah, we are.
It's not that we're negative about him. It's just we want to see what he's good at.
More. He's got to step up, hasn't he, HG?
Yeah.
He's got to start stepping up.
Like, when people get back fully fit, then Maddison plays in midfield, and to me, Kulusevski goes out wide. Even though I think that Ange Ball is better with fast players out wide, I want someone who I trust to maybe do something on the ball, and I don't trust Johnson yet. Sadly, I want to, but I don't.
I agree. I would rather not see Kulu on the right wing. I don't think he works. I don't think that accentuates the Ange Ball system. For me, I hope it does work out for Johnson or somebody else if we have to go out in the summer. I don't know, or even like you're saying, find a right back and push Porro further up and let him play out there. I think that it's not the worst idea either. So we've been going. We got 172 people watching. That's a great. Really appreciate you, everyone, coming out and and watching us tonight. Make sure you hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, we've got our Patreon chat, a Patreon group. It's a great group of people. Please join in. We've got our ticket share there. We've got our match threads. We've got our transfer talk. We've got all sorts of stuff. Also, I want to mention to everyone, Football Prizes has got a great outfit. You see the Udagi signed and framed Spurs shirt. We've got a code you can use for a discount. It's CR10. If you join the Patreon group, you get an additional discount. So please go and buy up those tickets. I think that would look good on somebody's wall somewhere. Not mine, but it would look great on someone's wall. I'm not going to do the shipping to the U.S., but still, I think it's a great prize. I hope everyone will grab those tickets up. We do have another show coming Friday. Will be at 9 p.m. I don't know who's doing that. HU, you coming on Friday night?
I can. I don't think I'm down to do it, but it's Friday would be the Aussies, so I imagine there'll be a few Aussies around.
Yeah, that should be the Aussie show, previewing the United game, and hopefully we may even have some more transfer talk. I think.
Imagine?
Yeah, I think for the most part. I mean, are we expecting really more incomings, or are we really pretty much just going to wait to the end of the window, see who we can afford to let go, and then maybe get someone that's an opportunity at the last minute? Or do you actually think you believe in these rumors that we're actually might bring someone else in proactively this week or next?
No, I mean, I think you're right. If the opportunity is there, then I think we're going to do it. But it's not going to be a serious money signing like Dragusin probably is, right? Like, I don't think we're going to be spending another 30 million on someone. We have a hole, it needs fixing, and there is a guy that we can afford right now. We're going to do it. Just like Porro was last year, just like Bentancur and Kulusevski were the year before. But yeah, loans to, if we think that if there's another injury, but I mean, people have said in the chat, Sessegnon is back and fit. He might get missed at some point. Like ask again at the end of the month. Like on January 31st, we might say goodbye to people then, and we might say, okay, well, we'll bring someone in just because we might need an extra body. But right now, I'd be surprised if anything major happens. I think it's just probably loans out, loans in, and maybe one sale if we're lucky.
Dier out. I think, are we assuming he's going to be gone no matter what, even if he doesn't go to Bayern? Or is it Bayern, or he's going to be with us until the summer, walk on a Bosman?
I mean, like if I'm Dier,
I'm going to Bayern.
I mean, like if Bayern come in for you, then you go there, right? Because even if they offered him
unless you're a 21-year-old Romanian.
Well, yeah, but like
if you're Dier,
but if you're Dier,
you're going to Bayern.
Then you go. But like, if it's not Bayern and I'm Dier, then I'll take my 6 months at Spurs. I'll be 30. I think his birthday's next week, so he'll be 30, and he'll be able to go wherever he wants on a free. That's a nice position to be in. But if when Bayern Munich say come and play for us, even if it's for 18 months,
get your medal.
Did you see the Paul O'Keefe? I think it was a tweet. I think I read it, or somebody sent it to me, where he's trying to suggest that Harry actually helped steer Dragusin to Spurs in hopes of getting Dier in. Did you? I mean, I think he actually wrote that on social media, which seems the most ludicrous thing I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
I mean, it just seems. I mean, a strange source because he's not crazy. I mean, unless I'm wrong, I don't think Paul O'Keefe is crazy. HG, let me one last question for you. Are you going to go to the next Bayern Munich press conference holding up the Dragusin Spurs shirt, or maybe even a Dier Bayern shirt? Are you going to do that for us?
I mean, I think the Dragusin, it would have to be the Dragusin Spurs one. That's the one that would rile them the most. It's not that far away.
They got salty online. The other fans got really salty.
Well, I mean, I'm not being funny. I don't blame them. Like for Bayern to lose a player to Spurs, little old Spurs, like
who they were going to pay more. Yeah,
they took our best player 6 months ago, for crying out loud, right? Like I'm sitting here, and it sounds awful. I'm sitting here thinking, what if we hadn't sold Kane?
No, don't.
We hadn't bought Johnson.
You had to go. You had to go there.
Don't start, mate. We're at the end of the show now.
Come on.
We'd be 10 points clear.
It's really tough because things have gone well considering everything, and we're sitting here thinking,
10 points
if
clear.
Only Is that going to come back and haunt us? Like, I don't think it will. I'm happy. That
Or
we
he would
sold
have gone
him. Don't
down
get
to
me wrong.
hamstring. I'm not sure which, but
Yeah, like he had to go. The money was there. It's just we didn't. Maybe we haven't used it in the way that we could have. Anyway, yeah, we'll say goodnight, shall we?
yeah, sure thing. All right, Gibbo, thanks for coming out. It's been a long time. I'm really glad you could come back on the show.
No, mate, it's good. Hopefully, I'll be. We'll start doing the midweek shows again. We'll fire them up. Circumstances have changed a little bit, so it'd be good to get the midweek shows on. The old transfer chat on Wednesday nights. We always like doing that, didn't we, HG?
Yeah, exactly.
So people got involved in the comments, and we had a bit of fun with it. So hopefully, we can kick that off again and start doing Wednesday shows again. And if you're along for the ride, Jack, that'd be great because you've been a wonderful host tonight.
I'm glad I could help out. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy coming on with you guys.
Yeah.
It's I get to live that. The rest of the people at work think I'm crazy, don't understand what I'm doing in my office late afternoons and talking with no one, in the room evidently, but they've figured out that I'm just a little odd anyway. So HG, thanks for joining us. And everyone who joined us, thanks so much. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please subscribe. Really appreciate you coming out. And always remember, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Frankfurt Spurs. Yeah!